Google Slides is great, but what if AI could build your whole presentation from slides to transitions to code? In this video for Lexicon Labs, I'm giving Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, and Manus the exact same prompt. And we're going to find out how well they can create HTML presentations. So let's find out who made the best sandwich presentation. So the premise is that we're going to ask for the exact same slideshow from scratch using HTML and CSS, the glorious history of sandwiches. And the prompt is detailed for asking the same result from each of them to create a 10-slide HTML presentation about the history of sandwiches using Tailwind CSS for styling, include navigation buttons and auto-advancing slides to make it fun, engaging, and visually appealing, add a confetti effect on the final slide. So let's go into Gemini and feed it the prompt that we have. You are a no-code developer and presentation designer. Create a complete HTML slideshow with HTML one file output, titled The History of Sandwiches from Neolithic Flatbread to Foot-Long Conspiracy. Make it funny. The point of this video is not to teach you how to make a slide about sandwiches, but to compare the outputs of the different AI models. So we're sending the exact same prompt. We're going to include autoplay and time slides with the next and back button, dark mode and light mode, switching between themes, a timeline slide, testimonial slide, chart slide, sandwich alignment chart slide, confetti animation on the final slide, and with the custom fonts. So we're feeding the exact same prompt. Let's send it to Gemini. Let's send it to ChatGPT. Let's send it to Claude on Sonnet 4.5. And let's send it to Manus. And now we wait. Just a pro tip on Gemini, it's probably better to click the canvas button before you send this so you don't have to copy and paste the HTML into something else in order to get it to run, but we'll fix that quickly. Alright, looks like we're going to have to secondary prompt on ChatGPT and Gemini to ask them to put it into Canvas so we can access preview. Now Claude is automatically putting it in an artifact, which is a nice feature. And Manus is thinking. Oh. So back to Gemini, it's done. I'm going to say put it in a canvas for preview. ChatGPT is still working. And Claude is still working. And Manus is still working. So let's go back to Gemini and see if it's in there. Okay, it's putting it into a canvas. The history of sandwiches slideshow. Let's see how many lines of code we have. Around 250 right now. GPT is still thinking. Claude is still thinking. Gemini is the first to finish. Manus is still thinking. Let's take a look at these features. Okay, so we have text with styling, the Earl who started it all. So it's a lot of text with a timeline. It functionally made the timeline that looks appropriate, and it's exactly what the prompt asked for, what the experts are saying. A chart, I don't really like the styling on this red part, but it is filling in the funny part. Bread 50%, filling 40%, sauce 9%, regret 1%. I don't know what sense of humor that is. Global consumption charts, and the let's see, light mode, dark mode doesn't work, but the sandwich alignment chart true neutral, a hot dog. Okay, and it's auto moving on to this. Let's just say remove the auto play, make the user manually transition between slides. And let's let it do that while we go over to GPT, which has output a buttload of code. And we're gonna just do the same thing we did with Gemini. We're gonna say, put it in a canvas for preview. And off to Claude. My expectation is exactly what I usually get from Claude. We're gonna download it as an HTML. We wanna make sure that the ending on the file is right. And we're gonna open that in a browser. There we go. The Claude one has dark mode, light mode working, a TED style parody presentation. It's using emojis. Okay, the transition doesn't get us anywhere. Claude basically gave us an empty presentation. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to Claude and say that the presentation is empty. We're just gonna state facts there, and we can preview in ChatGPT now. Allow selected, change the size, auto advance is on, toggle theme does not work. The chart is not centered. The history of sandwiches and the content is really lacking. I do like the transition top to bottom. Okay, that's interesting. Let's go back to GPT where I turned off autoplay, not GPT, Gemini, and we're also gonna say that light mode, dark mode doesn't work. Let's see what happens there. Let's go back to Manus and see what's going on. Well, Manus says task completed. So Manus will give you a preview. Okay, the timeline is not as good as Gemini. It's sequential, but it's visually not appealing. Let's toggle light mode, dark mode. Okay, that works. The sandwich is a lie, wake up sheeple, 2 pieces of bread, coincidence, I think not. The chart here is probably the best of all of them. Now, we're gonna use a lot of credits, but one nice thing about Manus is that it can generate images. To replace the emojis. And I realize at this point, we are not evaluating them on the same prompt anymore because we are reprompting each of them. But I'm comfortable with that. Let's see what Claude's doing. All right, download as HTML. Replace the file. Let's see what Claude's is. Okay, it's still an empty presentation. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to reprompt with a follow-up prompt for each of these, and we'll come back and see what the final results look like. All right, Manus sent me a notification. That's a nice thing about Manus, that the file creation was done. Now remember, with Manus we were adding images, so it's giving me a zipped file, which means the images are incorporated in the zipped file. So we just need to unzip it. And now let's see how many images it has. Okay, it has all those images in there. Let's see the history of sandwiches. Why sandwiches matter. The sandwich is not merely food, it is a philosophical statement. It represents humanity's eternal struggle to contain chaos between 2 orderly slices of bread. From the ancient Neolithic peoples who've, okay, it autoplays. Again, the structure on this is not clean. Quotes are appropriate. Light mode, dark mode works. Okay, the global sandwich consumption bar chart is not populated. Those are the images that it generated. Okay. It gave the confetti animation works. Now, one thing about Manus is that it can be kind of expensive to use. So let's see how many credits that used. That cost 149 credits, which is half of a day's free credits, which isn't too bad, to be honest. Back to the Gemini one. The history of sandwiches, from Neolithic flatbread to footlong conspiracy, a totally serious investigation. The Neolithic proto-sandwich, the Earl who started it all. Again, the timeline is the best thing on Gemini. The quote page is stylistically exactly what I expected from Gemini. At least it populated the bar chart. No images or emojis here. Some emojis here. And no confetti animation. So it went all right, I would say. Let's stop the preview on ChatGPT. I give this a C minus. This looks like a high school student made a Google Slides. So let's talk about the output. Gemini's visual quality was top tier. Like, it's clean, the charts are populated, everything looks organized. The code logic was smart, and the fonts and layout makes sense. The slides you're looking at right now are Gemini. Claude's output had a logical HTML structure according to my code analysis, but let's take a closer look. You know, it doesn't load in preview. And that's frustrating. And then it still loads blank screens. So I'd say Claude is a failure. Gemini gets a B. And then let's take a look at the Manus one again. Manus gets an A minus, maybe a B plus, because the timeline is quite ugly. You can't read sliced bread there. So to conclude, I would say that at this point, ChatGPT was fun, but come on, this isn't right. ChatGPT was fun. Manus was best for packaging and deployment, absolutely. And Gemini was best for initial visual ideas. My prediction before I started this video was that Claude would have clean, predictable code, but it doesn't even function, and I'm not sure if that's something wrong at the user end or not. But the verdict is that HTML slide presentations are not ready to replace Google Slides.